Yeah. Yeah, sounds great. Bye. God. Hello, sorry about that. Sorry about the interruption. Welcome back to the channel. What's up? I wanted to make this video where I talk about the state of Reptile YouTube, the content, the creators, all that kind of fun stuff. I gotta close my window. There's just cars coming constantly. Hold on. Yeah, maybe my room's gonna be 10 times hotter now, but whatever. At least the sound will be better. So recently I watched this video by Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles, who is a YouTuber with a reptile YouTuber with a pretty modest following. He's got about 109,000 subscribers. Thank you, Google. And in this video, he sort of covers his favorite content creators that make reptile themed content on YouTube. I don't even know his real name. We'll just call him Wickens for right now. He's a pretty nice guy. He's pretty wholesome. The primary content that he makes is mostly just like these top 10, top 5, top 69, whatever lists of X reptile you didn't know that blank, or top 10 reptiles that you can keep in a 10-gallon, top 4 reptiles you can keep in a 20-gallon, like that sort of content, which I like. You know, I watch a lot of that kind of stuff because sometimes I don't know, I just enjoy watching it. But it really got me thinking about the state of reptile content on YouTube, you know, as someone that makes reptile themed content on YouTube. I have a lot of conflicting thoughts. On one hand, I don't really watch a whole lot of reptile YouTube because I think a lot of the content on reptile YouTube is sort of overplayed. Like, there's a small handful of channels that I actually enjoy watching, and they're mostly bigger channels like Go Herping, Clint's Reptiles, Wiccans, and, you know, etc. But on the other conflicting hand, there's a lot of creative people out there that make good content, not just on reptile YouTube, but in general. And one of my favorite bits of content that I love watching on reptile YouTube is content from people that aren't actually career YouTubers. You know, people that just have a lizard, have a snake, have a frog or whatever, decide to make a video on it and then just post it, right? Like, I think one of the best examples of someone who isn't a career YouTuber but posts frequent videos is like Dave Durham, right? He had like 2 or 3 videos that went super viral back when that was a term. It was just him and his dirty ass hands talking to his lizards.
Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
I really like that kind of stuff because it's very slice of life, and I love people watching, but you know, I don't work in retail anymore, so I don't really have a space to do that. But yeah, many thoughts on reptile YouTube, head cloudy and full. And it got me thinking. I did a little mini survey of you guys just to see who your guys' favorite reptile YouTubers are and why. Unsurprisingly, the majority of you said Go Herping. You can kind of see Bosk right now. He's scratching at the cage. You're derailing the video, man. What are you doing? Oh my god. I love Bosk, but don't get a Savannah monitor. These things suck. But yeah, unsurprisingly, the majority of you said Go Herping. Now, his appeal is pretty obvious to understand. He's young, he's funny, his editing is really good, his thumbnails are really clean, and he legitimately makes good content and separates his kind of political takes to his Twitter and Twitter only, but we don't have to talk about that right now. And then many of the other responses were pretty straightforward and understandable, like Clint's Reptiles popped up a few times, so many of you commented Snake Discovery, Camp Kennan, some of you said me. I don't know if I deserve that, but thank you. A bunch of people brought up Chandler, whoever that is. Got it, okay, that makes sense. Chandler's Wildlife. After seeing what you guys had said and really taking a deep dive into a lot of their types of content, it made me realize that there are 2 primary types of reptile content on YouTube, which I have narrowed down into 2 labels: functional education and look how sick I am. Obviously, these aren't the only 2 types of content that you can make, but through my research, I think most content around reptiles on YouTube can be slimmed down to just that. And sometimes they have a little bit of overlap, but let's talk about functional education, which I think, at least personally for people that are actually into reptiles, is some of the most common content that we end up consuming. Functional education, that doesn't have like a super specific definition, but the words imply it's educational stuff that you can actually, you know, use and find applicable in your everyday life if you have reptiles or you're considering owning reptile. And the popularity of this sort of content on face value isn't very interesting. And when asking myself why I found it interesting, it was kind of obvious. Everyone wants a corn snake or a bearded dragon if they've never had a pet before, so naturally when you want to know how to take care of it properly, you'll go on YouTube and look up corn snake care guide, bearded dragon care guide. Like, it's not rocket science why that kind of stuff is popular or why people watch it. Maybe you need to know how to bomb some mites, so you watch a mite video. Maybe you're looking for a new reptile and you don't exactly know what to get, so you'll watch a top 10 most underrated reptiles video only for them to tell you that the top underrated reptile is like a blue-tongued skink or a hognose snake or something. But basically you want to be entertained and you want to learn something. And I think both of those factors sort of go hand in hand. Like, everyone likes to complain about how much school sucks, and like, school sucked. You know, I didn't do very well in high school because I hated the majority of what we were being taught, you know. But when I got into college and I started taking classes that I actually enjoyed and stuff that I found interesting, I found that to be super, super stimulating, because consciously, like, you're improving yourself and learning more things about the world that you're actually interested in. So it's like, I don't know, it's this weird feeling where you're combining bettering yourself and something you enjoy. And I think that's why a lot of people really enjoy watching these care videos, even though, like, you know, I've cared for corn snakes. I've had corn snakes for about 10 years. You know, Apollo is close to 9 years old now. I know how to take care of a corn snake. I still am fascinated by these corn snake care videos for some reason. And then when I was thinking about this sort of functional education, it led me to think about reptile room videos, which arguably are one of the most popular formats for reptile content on YouTube. You see just a random person, maybe they're a career YouTuber, maybe they're just making this one video, but they'll just walk around their room and say, look at this reptile, look at this reptile, look at this reptile, this is where I got this, and this is where I got that, this is how you feed this, and this is how you feed that. Those videos I love, because it's sort of forcing you to live vicariously through someone else's life. You know, you get to see this person who you've probably never met before and probably don't know all that well, basically show off one of the most important things in their life to you for 10 to 20 to 30 or 5 minutes at a time. And while it isn't holistically educational, it is really fun to watch, because like I said, living vicariously through other people's experiences are fun. You know, you project yourself onto this YouTuber or this movie character. It's one of the reasons why I love, you know, peer pressuring my friends to spend money on League of Legends so that I don't have to.
Wait, what'd you say, Ben?
I said I will buy RP and mystery gift you if you buy 100.
$5 valuation.
Oh no,
No, Brian! Oh no, Brian!
Whether you have or don't have reptiles, it's fun watching these videos because you're like, wow, that's pretty cool. That's an experience that's not mine that I get to sort of consume for 10 minutes. And that's how I sort of came to the conclusion that the second category is look how f***ing sick I am. Because those sort of videos are just elevated versions of that. And when I say look how f***ing sick I am, I mean reptile content that is made to just show off how cool whatever they're doing is. Generally this sort of stuff. And there's a lot of overlap between functional education YouTubers and these look how sick I am YouTubers. Go Herping and Snake Discovery, Clint's Reptiles, to an extent, I'd say they're more focused on education and that kind of stuff, but not all of us can be 21-year-olds that buy our own houses and do YouTube full time. Not all of us can be in loving relationships where we get to keep alligators in our house, and not all of us can, you know, take our Patreon money and create our own reptile educational spot, you know? So those things are very much not very attainable to the average person. That's what makes it interesting. I'd say the purveyors of this sort of content are people like Brian Barczyk, Nerd, Camp Kennan, Chandler's Wildlife, and even Coyote Peterson to an extent, who isn't a reptile YouTuber, but that's the same sort of concept. This isn't an endorsement of any of those types of people. You know, everyone has beef with Brian Barczyk, and I'm sure you can criticize everyone else for very specific reasons. This isn't an indictment of their character, more so just look at what these people do. So anyway, the appeal of these sorts of creators is you get to see things from a perspective that you don't normally get to see. You're being taken on that journey by a person who has a personality that you identify with, or a personality that you're interested in, and someone you feel like could either be your friend or you would find interesting if you had met them in person. Which is why I feel like Animal Planet content is is a lot of it is lost on people in my generation and younger and maybe slightly older, is because we desperately want something to identify with. And as much as I love watching Animal Planet and National Geographic, don't get me wrong, I still love that sort of stuff. I'll always choose YouTube content over that because it has a charismatic personality attached to it. I think one of the things that a lot of people tend to forget, especially in reptile YouTube, is that animals are interesting up to a cap, because you can only see so many videos of this crazy corn snake morph or this crazy ball python morph. What makes a lot of this content interesting is that when there's a personality attached to those things that you already find interesting. You know, you're going to these videos to see some cool snakes, but you're staying because the person talking about the snakes is kind of interesting, you know? I don't know if this has a name for it or anything, but in the context of reptile YouTube, you can just call it the Steve Irwin effect. Obviously, the animals he were looking at were super cool, you know, big monitors, you know, big cats, crocodiles, especially, all that kind of stuff is interesting in and of itself. But you can just go to a zoo and see a crocodile. You can pay $20, $30 to go to a zoo and just look at a crocodile sitting there. That would arguably be a more intimate interaction than watching it through a TV screen with layers of simulacrums. Having Steve Irwin talk about it and interact with that crocodile is the fun part. You come for the crocodile, you stay for the commentary. And it's that idea that makes me feel like something needs to happen to reptile content on YouTube. For so long, it's been basically the same stuff. Someone makes a care video, someone makes a top 10 list, someone shows you their reptile room tour, someone goes herping, and that's about it, you know? And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's a lot of the content that I make, it's a lot of the content that I enjoy making, and it's a lot of the content that I enjoy consuming. I see so much potential for people that aren't already in the hobby to sort of enjoy this kind of stuff. And I think that's best represented by this White's tree frogs craze that's happened recently. I made a video talking about this, so you should go watch that if don't know what I'm talking about. You know, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, frogs just exploded. People that aren't into reptiles for some reason just love frogs, specifically White's tree frogs. Reptile content on YouTube and media in general has the potential to become more mainstream and popular than it already is. I think two people I think of when thinking about this concept are, one, Go Herping, right? Because he has arguably one of the most popular reptile channels that makes more unconventional YouTube content, and two, Taylor Nicole Dean, who doesn't really make YouTube videos anymore, but at the height of her popularity, she was racking in millions of views, you know, plateauing at like 500K, which is huge for someone that makes videos about her animals and that kind of stuff. Her audience was primarily people that weren't inherently interested in that kind of stuff, and I thought that was a really interesting thing. You know, people like Jay from Prehistoric Pets and Brian Barczyk get a lot of mainstream appeal because of the shock value that's tied to their videos. Seeing like these 30-foot long snakes or 8-foot long lizards chugging down chicken legs and stuff, that'll make any person, regardless of whether or not they're interested in reptiles, turn and look. But I'm talking about channels like Taylor and like Alex's that get a lot of mainstream appeal despite making unconventional content in relation to reptile YouTube. That's sort of what I've always tried to do when keeping reptiles. Even before I made this channel, I'd have my friends over so they could come see my animals because I love showing them off. I think a lot of people like interacting with my animals and like reptiles in general. I've had a few friends who ended up buying reptiles because of the animals that I keep. I'm not saying that I'm gonna lead this global movement of people making reptiles more mainstream, but I'm saying that I think it does have the potential to do so. I think there's a high potential for conversion of us so-called normies into, you know, actually enjoying reptile content on YouTube. So that's pretty much it. I might make a follow-up YouTube video about this. I didn't plan a ton of this out. I just sort of wanted to sit down and talk, basically. But anyway, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, definitely like and subscribe so the algorithm can be merciful on me. Peace out, and I hope you have a very wonderful trip to Vietnam.